Hello students, I welcome you to yet another intriguing class in government. Our topic for today is Richard's Constitution of 1946. Previously, you were taught Clifford Constitution of 1922, and everything we exposed to you, the Legislative Council having 27 officials and 19 unofficial. But in Richard, there are certain things you must take note of. For our lesson objectives, you should be able to explain the features of Richard Constitution, discuss the merits of Richard Constitution, and you should also be able to explain the demerits of Richard Constitution of 1946. First of all, let's look at certain introduction to this topic. The governor of Nigeria at the outbreak of the Second World War was Sir Bodinion, who was in office from 1939 to 1944. In 1939, the Northern and Southern Protectorates were made provinces, and the southern part was broken into eastern and western provinces. And at the time of Bodinion's retirement in 1944, he had almost concluded the new constitution, where he proposed regionalism. You remember in 1939, the Northern and Southern Protectorates were changed to provinces. And there were three provinces: Northern Province, Eastern Province, and Western Provinces. So in 1939, they were provinces. But in 1946, they were turned to region by Richard Constitution. So Richard Constitution of 1946 replaced Clifford Constitution of 1922. The new constitution was published and tailored specifically to promote greater participation of Nigerians in their own affairs. Now, what are the various features of the Richard Constitution of 1946? What made the Richard Constitution different from the Clifford Constitution of 1922? How many members were there in the Legislative Council? You remember in Clifford, there were 46. In Richard, there were 44. So, how many were officials and how many were unofficials? These are the things we'll be looking at for. Now, one of the features was that the Executive Council of the Richard was headed by the governor. So, Executive Council was headed by the governor, who was Richard, and they were dominated by Europeans. In fact, there was just one Nigerian in the Executive Council. They were all dominated by Europeans. Then, let's look at the Legislative Council. You remember Clifford Legislative Council were 46, but Richard, they were 44. 16 of these 44 were official, while 28 were unofficial members. Just like Clifford, 4 were elected out of the unofficial, 3 from Lagos and 1 from Calabar. Now, let's look at creation of houses of assembly or regional assembly. Now, Clifford didn't create regional houses of assembly, but Richard did this by creating regional houses of assembly. So each region, the north, east, and west, were having their own houses of assembly. Beyond that, the constitution granted the north, that is the northern region, a bicameral legislature. That is, in the northern part of Nigeria, they were having 2 legislative houses. But in other parts, east and west, they were operating a unicameral legislature. But again, that was a plus, since bicameralism was introduced by Richard Constitution. Now, let's look at the composition of the houses. Now, in Northern region, the assembly had 19 officials and 20 unofficials. In Eastern region, the assembly was having 13 officials and 14 unofficials, while in West, that is West Regional Assembly, there were 14 officials and 15 unofficials. Remember, East and Western region were having or operating on unicameral system. Again, there was elective principle, just the way we have in Clifford. Even though the members were not enough, it was still 4. 3 positions were granted from Lagos and 1 from Calabar. So there was elective principle. So again, apart from the elective principle, there was also creation of regions out of the 3 previous provinces. Remember in 1939, we were having, out of the protectorate, we were having Eastern Province, Western Province, that is from the southern part, and then we were also having Northern Province. But in 1946, these 3 provinces created in 1939 were made regions. So it was the Richard Constitution that created regional system. Again, there was African unofficial majority. Previously in Clifford, Nigerians were only 10 out of the 19 unofficials. But in Richard, the unofficial members were 28. And Africans were majority out of the unofficial members. Again, the Richard Constitution brought the North and South together under one legislature. So there was a central legislative house. Apart from the regional houses of assembly created, there was also a central legislative house. So for the first time, the 3 regions sat together as one legislature. Also, some services were reserved solely for the central government and financed by it, e.g. posts and telegraphs, railways, and army. So this was gradually introducing exclusive function for the central government, which is tailoring towards federalism. Again, revenues of the country were made available to each region in the forms of bulk grants. So there were revenue available to the region, and this revenue were in form of bulk grants. So revenue were going to the region through the grants from the central government. Now, let's look at the aims and objectives of Richard Constitution of 1946. One of the aims was to introduce regionalism. 2, to have a broad-based constitution. 3, creation of opportunities. 4, to accommodate every section of the Nigerian society. So it brings about a way of accommodating the various regions. Now let's look at the merits of Richard's Constitution. One was that it introduced regionalism. Again, there was more representations of Nigerians. 3, it introduced bicameral legislature in the northern region. There was also unity, that is bringing Nigeria together into one central legislature and unofficial majority by Nigerians. Now, the disadvantages, like the merits, include the Executive Council. Executive was dominated by Europeans. There was just only one Nigerian. Then elective principle was just still the same as Clifford. 3 from Lagos, 1 from Calabar. The country was divided into 3 unequal regions. The north was bigger and then the governor was still having veto power. Consequently, the nationalists kicked against the constitution and argued that the governor should not have reserve power to veto. Again, they kicked that the constitution had no plans of making Nigerians to take active part in their own affairs, and that it was imposed on Nigerians. That's all I have for you for today. See you in our next class.